Bonjour everyone, I'm Sicx and this is another episode of Sicx Tarot. Now as you can see I'm kind of in a different location at the moment, but then it's all down to availability really. And now seeing as it's the month of October, we're going to be doing some more interesting and spooky tarot cards. So I hope you like these. Now for this video, I'll be reviewing a pack of cards that I kind of got a good memory for me. And it is the Matt Bangley Tarot. And it's only the major arcana, so it's only got 22 cards. Now the reason this is kind of an interesting pack for me, and a memorable pack at that, is because I picked them up a couple of years ago when I went to Comic Con. I went to London Comic Con about 2016, and it'd been a Comic Con I hadn't been to for about 7-8 years, and during that time I met lots of lovely people, lots of comic book artists, lovely authors, a favourite podcaster of mine, and so I was very happy to come across a pack of tarot cards. Now when I was fortunate to meet Matt, and a very nice man, great artwork. He does a lot of art, skeletal artwork. Some of them are quite violent depictions, so if you're a bit sensitive, obviously give it a miss. But so we'll just go with this. So that's the sort of artwork in the front there, the back. It's kind of nondescript. You wouldn't be able to say to fix something unless it's like the Eye of Sauron there. Now, as I said, I'd recommend you look him up. He does lots of great artwork, and you can get t-shirts and stuff. T-shirts, art prints, all sorts from him. Right, and now we're going to dive into this deck. But I know what you're thinking. Blue, you're wearing a skeleton top, and you usually like to keep things on theme. Why are you wearing a skeleton top? Well, I'll answer that question for you. It's because this is a tarot deck mostly consisting of skeletons. So, first of all, here is the back, and come on, that just jumps out, that just screams out, literally and figuratively. And also the detail on that is really quite good as well. It's kind of, I don't want to say raw, because that sounds a bit, it sounds silly to say, but it's still it is lovely. It's really cool. Now, as I said, this is only the major arcana. I have not yet come across a full pack, but then I'd have to do that. I would have to research a bit more, see if he's done a full deck. I believe he's redoing a new set, but I need to look into that. And of course, if he does, I'm believing we're getting them. So, now none of these are numbered; they're just named. So we're going to start with the Fool. Now some of these are going to be classic designs. So first off, that's not our kind of traditional style of the Fool, very camp. Also notice that the rose is on fire. Now some of the artwork is kind of, some of it's traditional based on rider, some of it is not. So we've got the Fool there. The Magician, kind of, now I've gotten into H.P. Lovecraft, I kind of try and find it everywhere. You actively look for something you're interested in. So that does make me think of Lovecraft. But then Lovecraft is so ingrained in pop culture now, you kind of see it everywhere. Then you've got the High Priestess holding the skull. Now obviously the other thing you'll notice is that all of them are black and white. Now this isn't like the Wild Unknown Tarot where some of it's black and white. And then with some of them got splashes of colour. This is pure. This is pure binary. It's either black or white. No grey in between. So the High Priestess looks quite nice there. You've got like a bladed ank at the top there, and she's behind the moon, and she's got stars across the cloak there, and the crescent moon on top. Then you've got the Empress. Now, I'm not as big a fan of the Empress on this as I would be with some of the others. Once again, it's still nice artwork. This is the sort of thing you kind of look like. So then you've got the Emperor, so that's more in theme with some of the rest of the deck. And it looks pretty cool, kind of nightmarish. So if you kind of say, if you're doing a reading with this card, you might say that there's a guy at the top who might be a bit vindictive because they don't look like a ruler who's necessarily fair or even-handed. We've got the Hierophant, and I love the skeletal teeth and the crescent moon, even though you can't actually see any specifics of the face. I do think that looks pretty cool, and still making it look very Pope-like, even with the hat there. I don't know the name of the Pope hat. Let's call it the Pope hat. And you've got the Lovers. Now, this interests me because I've seen, once again, I've seen some of the other work that this man has done. This is probably the tamest depiction I've seen some of his work. So if you do go in, there's a lot more graphic sexual images in some of his other artwork. So having seen this after seeing some of his other stuff, this is quite tame, but that's still quite nice. And the fact that it's the but I'm just going to keep going back to the fact, isn't it nice because skeletons? But no, they're still pretty cool. They're a nice kind of artwork there. Then you've got the Chariot. Now, as I've said, none of these are actually numbered. I like to try and keep cards in order when I do these sort of videos, because I want to show, when you open the box, this is kind of the order you'll see them in. It's because I'm fussy that way. We've all got our quirks. So I've actually kind of I've kind of put these in order to how they are to be in the Riders, but not necessarily in any other deck. So at the moment, I've put these in order from how they are in the Riders. I have used these in readings before. But we've also got the Moon, the Eye, and the Crown. So you can say that the Moon is seeing what is not seeing, the unseen. The Eye is in Egypt and in Greece. I think it's Greece. Turkey, sorry. The Turkish Eye, and it's a symbol of protection, and of course we all know crowns are a symbol of authority and power. And also the fact you've kind of got the horses look quite vicious as well, very skeletal and emaciated there. Just really, you can imagine them as being bone dry. Then you've got Strength. The lion in that looks amazing, first of all. Not the classic style of the card, because the card is traditionally a woman petting a lion rather than grappling with them. Now obviously lots of different card artists do it where they've had a man wrestle the thing. But yeah, I do prefer I've always been a fan of the metaphorical image of it, just like a woman sitting next to the lion rather than a man or a woman grappling with it. It feels a bit more on point. But saying that, this is still a really cool looking card. Then we've got the Hermit, looks more of a traditional hermit, kind of like a 8-pointed star in the cage there, because classically it's an 8-pointed star. He's got his signature up there. I believe that is his signature. It doesn't come up in some of the others, but I believe that might be Bailey's. The artist's signature there. But as I said, lovely man, nice to chat to. But then admittedly I was also dressed as David Bowie from The Labyrinth, so I had a lot of people being very friendly to me. But yeah, so you've got the Wheel of Fortune there. Now, I like that because it's kind of convoluted. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And of course you've got the TORA. Now, I'm not quite sure if it's which way down it is supposed to be. Just throw that out. Torah, there we go. Never actually sat to think about that one. But yeah, so, and it's interesting that you've got the sun there, I believe that's supposed to be the sun. But it being black and white, I'd assume that's supposed to be the sun rather than the moon, but it's not that easy to tell. But that does look quite cool. You've kind of got like the crown of thorns there as well. That's quite interesting. Next we've got Justice. And this one's interesting in the fact that I assume that's supposed to be a black sun in a white sky, but not. But I like the fact it appears to be judge, jury, and executioner because they're wearing the thing over his head that an executioner would wear. So that's quite interesting there. So it could be a just trial or an unjust, or it could be a just trial to imply that not all justice is going to go well. And we've got one of my friend's favourites actually, the Hanged Man. Whilst I'm saying it, hey Holly, your favourite card's come up again. So I've got the Hanged Man, and I find this Hanged Man quite interesting in the fact a couple of cards I've come across have this where it is actually being suspended not by a rope but by a snake, which I always think is quite interesting. Sorry, the table's cracking there. But I find that quite an interesting thing there. And it's it's being suspended over fire, which is quite telling of its predicament. Then we've got the Death card, everyone's favourite card. It's interesting that because I'd imagine it's quite tricky to do the Death card in a deck full of skeletons and make it look standoutish. Well, I think it does well. The cross is up, the cross is on top, and the inverted cross is at the bottom. I think that's quite an interesting way to depict that one. Then we have Temperance. Probably one of the nicest looking ones in this entire deck. Pouring water into a bowl. So this makes me think more of the zodiac sign Aquarius rather than the classic Temperance card. And once again, that's just me. It's just my personal opinion. But yeah, it's quite nice. And when you consider the rest of the deck, it's nice to have a bit of light in the darkness. And speaking of darkness, the Devil card. Now, I've got to admit, this Devil card looks really good. It looks like it's more either has killed or is dining on this previous human being there. And it does kind of have that, the overlord. There is a lot of feeling of oppression here. And it does not feel like a good card at all, which is an accurate description. And the two sets of horns I've always quite liked there. And it's a classic depiction, and it's a nice modern classic, as it were. Sounding pretentious again, I say I'm being, but there you go. The Tower. Now, with something like the Tower, I'd imagine it's very difficult to keep. You can't really alter this that much because you're talking about a building that's either being struck by lightning, struck by lasers from an eye. There's lots of different things that might hit the tower, but overall, it's a tower that's falling around you, and this one is a very kind of apt feel to it. It's like, yeah, shit's going down, and it's going down hard. And it's just once again just a nice artwork for that. We've got the Star. Now the Star is it's not my favourite of this deck, but it's still very nice. It doesn't have the classic feel of the riders, but it still kind of shows you that there's still hope out there in the wilderness. We've got the Moon. Now the Moon this depiction of the Moon I think is quite nice. You've still got the classic towers in the background, but you've got the snake looping around the crescent moon and going around, and the tail going around one of the towers, which I think is quite an interesting look. And there's still enough stars in the sky, and it's a very interesting take on that one. Now. And then you've got the Sun. Now this one I quite like because it's showing, it's kind of putting the skeleton theme, it's keeping it on theme really. You can imagine these skeletons wouldn't like the daylight. and in some other tarot cards they've done something similar. So the fact that the skeleton is bursting into flames in the presence of the sun, I think magnifies the positivity of the card itself, and I do quite like that and how he had done this. Right, then you've got Judgment. Now this is once again very reminiscent of the Death card, but this feels a lot stronger and bold in how this is done, and it does look really cool. Got the blood dripping at the bottom there, and it just feels like, right, that's it. It feels very final. It feels like there is nothing after this point, except there is, where you have the world. It feels, and what I like about this one, it feels very kind of maniacal, with considering the theme of the deck, but it's still quite, it feels like a great achievement at the end of this. It's like you've got the world and the moon in his little fingers there at the bottom. It looks really cool, and it's a great depiction of this card. It's a great way to kind of emphasise that you've finally done it. You're not part of the world, but you've conquered the world. It's finally done, and you've finally achieved it. And it's a great depiction of that, I feel. Now, there isn't actually any book with this, so there is no actual spread to come with this. And as it's such a small deck, I'm not really going to do my top 5, just because the deck is quite small, so I won't really be doing the top 5 in this video. But as I said, it's a really cool deck. I wouldn't say it's for beginners. I would say that it would be a good 3rd or 4th deck, but not necessarily a starter deck. Now, things I'll also find is when I come across, when you come across major arcana decks only, they still tend to be at the relative price of a full deck. So this, at the time, cost me, I believe, about 18 to 20 pounds. So, but then it's also a convention when I purchased it. So I personally very rarely spend more than £30 on a standard 4-pack. But considering I like the artwork so much, and once again, when you meet the people who produce these, when you actually meet these stall holders and they say, "Oh, I've got this, it's 20 quid," and they're very friendly, obviously you're more likely to, it's a salesman thing, but still a really nice, friendly guy. And I definitely recommend, if you like these cards, I definitely recommend you check him out on Twitter, and with some of his other artwork. He has his own shop. He's a really nice artist, really nice bloke when I met him, and these are really nice cards. I do say these are worth a purchase. If these are still available, I'm not aware of the availability at the moment. I have not actually looked into it, but the internet is a large network, so you're bound to find something. Well, I hope you like this style of Halloween episode. It's not the best one. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. It's not the best one. So I'm just going to text. Welcome year 0. What was that supposed to mean? Welcome year 0. Anyway, I shall see you on my next video. You have a good one.